Climate change is a global challenge that affects all humanity, but not equally. Women, particularly those that rely on natural resources for their livelihoods, face higher risk.
Women are disproportionately being affected by climate change and also by disaster. Even for getting access to the social safety net support, for example, kind of relief or rehabilitation support from the local government, because you don't have power.
Women's organizations play an important role in breaking barriers to women's rights in the climate change agenda.
Since 1985, the International Women's Meeting in Nairobi, forward-looking strategies were put in place. And from that time up to 1995, there was the International Women's Meeting in Beijing, China. So progressively, laws have been put in place that protect women. So there has been a lot of improvement.
The UNDP is supporting countries on the one hand in developing and implementing their climate change actions, whether they are on mitigation or adaptation. And on the other hand, we have been supporting countries in mainstreaming gender.
Gender experts are debating on ways to ensure inclusion in the implementation of the Paris Agreement.
This meeting, the GGCA Forum, is the first time ever that the Global Gender and Climate Alliance has brought together its 90+ members of civil society, UN organizations. We have women who are working in grassroots communities as Indigenous women leaders who are coming from countries all around the world, really because there's a fundamental understanding that women's rights, environment, gender equality work at an intersection.
The meeting kicked off with a progress review under the theme, Where We Are, Where We're Going.
There's a conversation about unpaid care work and the double burden of women, which wasn't there. And we need to ride on these issues and make sure that it's reflected in the climate negotiations.
As we look at the Sustainable Development Goals and how to achieve them, it's very, very clear that those targets are not only ambitious, but they're also expensive. And so if you look at an area like climate smart agriculture and women farmers and what they bring, and the way that investment in women farmers can address issues around carbon management, food security, gender equality, women's empowerment, all at once, hitting multiple SDGs, making that case that return on investment really is there, and that it is indeed the smart thing to do, that I think is a key for unlocking greater attention, greater action.
Participants on the second day of the forum discussed possibilities and opportunities of turning the promise of the Paris Agreement into action.
Women receive only about 10% of credits given by financial institutions, and that is actually putting everything together, microfinance, commercial banks, but also in public finance.
We seem to encounter two challenges when we look at the issue of gender and technologies. The first is that there is still the perception that women are the beneficiaries of these types of projects and not the ones who should be in the position to determine what the needs are in the first place, let alone to be the ones making the decisions or implementing the projects.
One of the things which I would like to say is capacity building of women, because I've seen in India that women are taking lead roles in doing actually the mitigation and adaptation activities, but they lag behind in coming in front or taking the sort of leadership role.
Lightning talks on gender at the cutting edge preceded a skills sharing session on a range of topics. A panel discussion concluded the meeting, delving deeper into how we can continue to make progress in promoting gender equality.
This is a time when we have to show, I think, the most maximum solidarity with each other, for each other, and for the issues that we care about so much, in particular for the importance of having gender-sensitive climate policy.
There is a lot of evidence that suggests we should and must invest in women's leadership in clean energy entrepreneurship. We lose 4 million people annually from complications related to indoor air pollution directly linked to how they cook.
As feminists, we approach climate change and the climate crisis aware of differentiated impacts, aware of the fact that climate change affects the entire world, but it's not a coincidence that, for example, Indigenous women and women living in rural areas in direct dependence on the land are the ones most affected by climate change. Climate is perpetuating and also amplifying already existing inequalities, already existing patterns of domination and oppression and violence in our societies.
I think for this COP, what's critically important as we're looking to implement the Paris Agreement is to to think about processes for developing really strong consultation and consent with communities, with countries, and what the implementation of these NDCs needs to look like, these nationally determined contributions. And that needs to include women's voices quite strongly.